Panama vessel, which is not necessarily the one that is growing fastest. What is really going to happen when we expand the canal? Okay, having said everything about the existing canal, now we have to build scenarios as to what happens when the canal is expanded. Why is it that there has, again, a game changer potential? Well, first of all, the magnitude of the project. I'm going to just devote a few slides to the magnitude of the project so you can get a general sense of it. It requires the movement of 154 million cubic meters of material. Right now, we are executed 62, so the project in this sense is well in advance. Compared to what was done when the canal was built, when the existing canal was built, you can see there the existing locks required 200 million cubic meters of material. The new locks are requiring 155, so it's almost an important part. But when you talk about concrete, the existing lock required 3.4 million cubic meters of concrete. The new locks are requiring 4.7. So in that sense, it is a bigger project than the construction of the existing canal was. The project is on time, and right now we are expected to complete it in the middle of 2014. Everything, yesterday the consortia was in the media saying that they are going to finish before the schedule. We have a $50 million carrot there, so if they finish before, they can take the $50 million. They were claiming yesterday in the news that they are going for it. And it is a project that is right now under budget. And the reason for this, you can see these are the principal contracts, and you can see the magnitude of the contracts and how each award was given basically under what we had budgeted at the beginning of the project. So this is a project that is on time, under budget, and fully funded. And we have already, as you can see, the distribution there of the financing. We went to MLA, multilateral. We were able to get excellent terms. Most of it comes, as you see there, ACP, the Canal is putting there close to $3 billion of our own money, and the remaining part is what we're financing from MLA. The principal change that this will bring about in shipping is the new lock size. And this gives you an idea in terms of the container vessel. The container vessel that they can transit through the canal is about 4,400 TEU. With the expansion, when we were designing it, we were looking and we even hired consultants to tell us what would be the maximum capacity of the vessel, and they were telling us 12,600. Well, as soon as we announced the size and we started the project, then we started getting calls from people and shipyards and classification societies telling us that they were able to design a ship for 14,000 that could fit in the new lock. So you can see that shipping is a very dynamic world. But this is very important because those vessels are already there. This is not a project that is a field of dreams, build it and they'll come. This gives you a good idea of the distribution of the world fleet, container fleet, that we had in 2000, how it evolved in 2010. What's in yellow in red, and red is post-Panama vessels that today cannot fit through the canal. You can see here the yellow is 5,000 to 10,000, and the red is 10,000 plus. And this is the way we'll look in 2014, taking into account the new builds that will be delivered and those that have recently been contracted. So this gives you an idea that the expansion of the canal is a project that is going to be ready when the fleet is already there and available. Because that's the other thing. As I mentioned before, the shipping line's overbuilt, so the supply is there, and maybe even more than the demand requires. So the shipping line wants to deploy those vessels as soon as possible in the routes where they can make them profitable. As I mentioned before, this is something that came out very recently, about a month or 2 months ago. This comes from Alpha Liner. They are already looking at 18 to 20,000 TEU vessels. 18,000 TEU vessels will not be able to come to the new canal. So they are already, again, building a new post-Panama. And this is Maersk. It's all about market share. They want to control the market by having the larger vessels with the economies of scale that others cannot compete. But all this is saying is that in this dynamic world, I mean, we may also be looking at the possibility of needing a fourth lane in the not too distant future. Now, we have a model that we developed in conjunction with a group of consultants, two of them who are here visiting us. And the idea of the model was to analyze the impact of the expansion in terms of cost to the shipping line. What that meant, how do you translate all the benefits that are derived from the economies of scale of the larger ship by segment, and the result, how could that be seen in one way? One of the things that we asked them to do was to do a graphical form so that we could see, okay, if we reduce the cost of transport per unit because of the expansion and economies of scale, how can that be taken to further increase the market share of the Panama Canal? And one of the results that came out that was very interesting is that if you look at here, the red, the yellow, and the green, red is a market that the canal would never really have any advantage on. That's basically the captive market of the intermodal system in the United States. Yellow is really where there is a discretionary cargo that could go one way or the other. And green, of course, is where the canal has this distinct benefit. So what the expansion of the canal does is it expands the market share of the canal inland. Of course, assuming there is a connectivity rail, especially coming from the ports that would be ready to take the larger ships, because that's also very important. And then, of course, that there is interest on behalf of the shipping line to share those savings with the shippers. And keep that in mind. I mean, this study and this analysis and this model were done to look at the shipping line perspective. And we're conducting another phase of the same project and further developing the model to include the shipper's perspective. Because it is also important, the shipper is also someone who's making the decision on routing. Looking at the ports, and this is really looking from the existing ports that benefit from the use of the canal. The issue comes to draft. The larger vessels require more draft. Which ports are ready to handle a larger vessel? Well, if you look at this, there are only two ports. In New York, there are some terminals that can handle the larger vessels already with the deeper draft, and Hampton Roads in Virginia. And I didn't have the circle in Miami until a month ago. We had the visit of the governor of Florida, and he just announced that he is putting the money to dredge Miami so that they are able to call the larger vessels are able to call Miami. And there is also a lot of effort into connecting further north. But the big question, of course, is Savannah or Charleston. I mean,